Good evening. Welcome back, Poetry Love Buzz. It is I, ZM Wise, and here I am with another special interview for you. So we have here Elisabeth Horan back for a rerun, and joining her is none other than David Hanlon. Elisabeth Horan is an imperfect creature from Vermont advocating for animals, children, and those suffering alone in pain, especially those ostracized by disability and mental illness. She is editor-in-chief at Animal Heart Press and co-editor at Iceflow Press. She has several chaps and collections out, and she is a poetry mentor to many up-and-coming brilliant poets and proud mama to Peter and Thomas. She recently earned her MA from SNHU and her MFA from Lindenwood University. She is a 2018 Pushcart nominee and a 2018 and 2019 Best of the Net nominee. David Hanlon is a confessional poet from Cardiff, Wales, now living in Bristol, England. He is a qualified counselor, therapist. He is a Best of the Net nominee. You can find his work online in over 40 magazines. His first chapbook, Spectrum of Flight, is available for pre-orders now and will be officially released on 18th February of this year with Animal Heart Press. And Ellie's book, Alcoholic Betty, coincidentally launched today. So congratulations to both of you, your upcoming releases and current releases. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Zach. It's wonderful to be here again. Hello, David.
Hi, Ellie. Hi, Zach.
Hi.
Hello. So my first question is to Elisabeth. Tell us all about Alcoholic Betty and what can we expect, and what are your current feelings on this release?
Yeah, that's a big question. I had a few nightmares last night, honestly. I'm anxious about it. I'm very proud of the book. I'm proud that it's published, and I'm proud that I wrote it, but I also have a part of me that is like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And like I told my husband this morning, I said, I don't ever want you to read this. It's so confessional. It's so shameful that I really, I go up and down. Some days I'm like, good for me. You did that. That's fucking awesome. And then some days I'm like, oh my God, I should not have ever done that. So I have very mixed feelings today. And I told Isabel Kenyon this morning, my editor, I'm going to just try to be gentle with myself today because it's been really emotional. I've cried off and on, and I was looking forward to this interview all day because I knew it would feel really safe to be with you guys. And so this is the highlight of my day for sure, to be with people who get what I wrote, Ellie. who get what it's like to do something that brutal and have it be in the public's hands, and you can't take it back.
Of course.
It's out. I can't take it back.
No, definitely forward, and we thank you for including us in your soul bearing. It means a great deal. Especially, I've always found confessional poetry to be, or confessional writings in general, to be very special that way. It's those moments when you're truly handing over, if anything from morsels all the way to great chunks of your soul.
Yes, and here I feel safe, and I think in the UK on our tour I will feel safe, but I don't want my family to read this, and I don't want people in my town to read it. I'm afraid. I'm embarrassed. I think something with alcoholism. Some addictions are kind of less embarrassing than others. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like alcoholism is one that you're just like, oh my God, what a mess she was, and I don't know why that is, or maybe I'm just doing that to myself, but it seems like something you should be able to help, right? You should be able to stop. You should get a grip. You should not do that shit to yourself. But just like any other addiction, when you're in it that deep, you can't see tomorrow. You can't see the light of day. You can't see anything but having your next drink. It's awful. So, yeah. And when I compare it a little bit to like my Was It Rape book, which was also super duper confessional, that book feels like less my fault. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
those things happened to me. I couldn't quite help them. This book happened to me. I did it to myself. That's the big pain there.
Of course. Of course.
So I'm very happy to be here with you guys because, again, this is by far the highlight of my day, and makes me feel like it was worth it.
We are definitely grateful for your presence.
Darling, I'm grateful for you, Zach, for hosting us. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you.
We love you. We support you.
Love
We
you.
love you. Definitely.
Love you too, sweetheart. Both of you.
So my next question is for David. Definitely want to talk about your book. Tell us all about Spectrum of Light. What does that entail?
Oh, okay. So Spectrum of Flight is kind of my journey, really, from childhood to my age now, to in my 30s, and it covers largely my experience of being bullied for being gay before I even knew what being gay was, and kind of how that affected me, and how difficult that was. So the book really the book really tries to really show how damaging bullying is and how damaging homophobia is. And then it kind of goes into when I grow a bit older and I'm becoming more accepting of my sexuality, but it's kind of an up and down thing, you know, and still, things arise that challenge my mental health, and as a result of those experiences as a teenager, my mental health was very precarious, and I went into a deep, it's also got things, so it covers depression, but it also covers finding love, and that becoming a sort of, a part of the acceptance. But still, even with that, I still went into this deep depression, but I came out of it so much stronger than I've ever been, the most resilient I've ever been.
Yeah.
I think that was, for me, what taught me to write, was because I'd experienced this deep hardship, and I really didn't know that I was going to get that message to people, maybe in something which they don't know if they're going to get through, and to show that, and that's what I wanted to convey, I think, with the book.
Wow, that is something. I was also wondering. I'll occasionally ask this, but could you tell us a little bit about the origin of the title?
Spectrum of Flight. So yeah, the title was a process in itself, and I think with the image as well, it's kind of all about, a lot of the poems kind of, I refer to myself metaphorically as this kind of bird, this small caged bird, and to be able to break out of the cage and fly is kind of me being able to overcome all that bullying, all that homophobia, and fly. And the spectrum is, it kind of referring to the whole, the spectrum of anyone's identity, to be able to embrace all your colors. And on the cover, it's kind of got all these birds in a cage, and they're all very dark blue, with no color and dark. And then as they escape, they've got this kind of tropical effect on the birds, so they're multicolored. And I kind of like the way that fits in with the whole LGBT flag.
Yeah.
And and of being able to fully embrace yourself and fully embrace the spectrum of your identity, really. So that's kind of where the message comes from, really, with the title. Oh, that's the message it's trying to convey. Yeah.
We went through a lot of titles.
We did. Yes, you were all very patient with me.
What were some other working titles, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, they were mostly poems from the book.
Okay.
So Self-Love is a Candle was one. And Moon as Masked Self. Moon as Masked Self.
It's hard to say. It's good we didn't go with that one.
Yeah. I mean, I like them as poem titles, but I think I do love the name of the book, and I love the fact that the cover really conveys what the title is perfectly. I feel, you see the title and you see the cover art, and it just fits,
Definitely, it really does pop out at you.
Yeah.
The symbolism is so good because it works on so many levels. And Amanda, shout out, Amanda Animal Heart.
Shout out to Amanda, definitely.
Our cover genius over there. But it was such an awesome process too, because it was like my whole team, my whole marketing, everyone at Animal Heart Press had input on that cover. Like, and we just worked through it. Like every day we would put out ideas, and it arrived at this place that felt so good, I was like, that is how that should work. That is how authors should work with their editors, and like
agreed,
to achieve something that lovely is just so special.
Well, this is actually
I have to say I felt so completely supported, and not one word or for 1 second did I feel like I was bothering anybody or wasting people's time. The whole team was so supportive and so patient, and I know that a lot of authors don't get that that experience. And I just have to say, with Animal Heart Press, the whole team, I felt completely safe and supported, and I feel like the product that's come out of it is massively due to the team, and how patient, and I feel like their interests have been completely to nurture my creativity, and that's been at the essence of all their communication with me, and that's a really beautiful thing. So I'm so thankful, Ellie, and the whole team I just feel so lucky that this press published my book, because this is an amazing press, and any author would be very lucky to work with such an amazing press, and they would be very safe.
Beautiful. That's the nicest thing I've heard. Oh my goodness, sweetheart, you make me cry. Thank
but
you.
all your hard work, and that takes a lot of hard work, and I just really appreciate it a lot. I hope you know.
I decided early on that with Amanda, when we started, that we were going to pay attention to our authors and make them the center. And I've had enough bad experiences to know what it feels like on the other side, to not have your editor email you back for months. It feels horrible, And it's your creation, your masterpiece, everything's on the line, and you get a book accepted and then they don't write you. And that hurts. That hurts. So you've also been quite a dream to work with, my sweet. It's all been so fun. It's all been really, really fun.
I'm actually glad. I'm actually glad you said that to him, because this next question is a perfect segue. Everybody knows that there, sort of like romantic connection, there's nothing like that artistic and creative spark between two people. So this is a very, very special and unique question. I would like this is for both of you. Explain to us, the naked public eye, the origination of the collaborative efforts between you two.
Shall I go first?
Okay, yeah.
Whichever.
Okay. Well, Beth Gordon brought me this book. David and I have followed each other. He was one of my very first contacts on Twitter when I joined. And I've been on 3 years. And I mean, really, I remember seeing his poems back then, and he's always been on my radar. I got this manuscript, and like I've said before, I read the first poem, and I knew I wanted it. I knew right then. I read the rest of it, but I knew from the very start it was a poem about roadkill and him connecting and how he relates to that feeling of horror and gruesome. I think about roadkill all the time.
Mm.
I have a whole book about it that's looking for press. It's very upsetting to me. And so is being bullied and shamed and fucked with and made to feel less human for something that is just you, right?
Mm.
So in the moment I read that poem, I knew how I felt toward David. And we had the most incredible time when it came for me to sit down with his manuscript and really pick it apart. And I didn't do a lot, but I did say to him, I said, this book is so good that we're going to fine tune it to this place that, we'll take it to that next level of like, there is nothing in this book you can say, oh, that's too bad they had that slant rhyme in there. It doesn't quite work. Or why is that word in there? It's that perfect that it needed to be even more perfect. And the way David works with words and lines and everything he does is really complex. And so my editing process needed to mirror that passion. I forget where I'm going with this, but we worked really closely, and I would send him a draft with some of my edits, and we'd chat. He'd say, yep, you're absolutely right. Let's do this, let's do that. And our minds are very in tune to each other, and we also care very deeply for each other and respect each other and make each other smile. Like it's just to the point that now we get to go tour together, and it's just a dream come true, right? I mean,
It really is. And it's, from that first, obviously we've did a lot over Twitter but to have our first video chat, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And
it wasn't that long ago.
No, but that instant connection of, I can talk, I can say whatever I want. I don't need to feel judged. And you never know when you actually talk to someone face to face if it's going to be completely the same. And it definitely was. And I think that's such a great thing that I feel like I can talk to you completely comfortably.
With you.
And that's what makes me even more excited to go on this tour, because I know how supportive we are of each other, and it's going to be great. Definitely.
And it's also what's made this book so exceptional is that, I can say things to you, you don't get offended, you don't think, oh, she's trying to, control my book. Like, it's just been an incredible balance of trust and respect and love, and it's just fantastic. Yay. Really wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for going into that. I think I'm a certified sap, so what I'm seeing in front of me is just off the charts adorable, and just
sappy cute, right?
Well, but seriously, it's very refreshing to know that people still work. I mean, not only work together so closely, but they just have that certain. It's a genuine artistic connection. It's not just for one objective or even several objectives. It's you have that. It's that interconnecting spark between your word, in this case, words, I just it's a wonderful sight to see. I must say, a wonderful.
And I just have to add as well, I'm just so grateful for Ellie. Not only does she support you as an author, but she pushes you in the best way to do new things and to do exciting things. And for her to even invite me on this tour with her is such an honor. That is something that I'm so appreciative of, because I can, I'm quite. I don't really push myself. I remember that I was, I was working with my mentor. I wasn't thinking about a book. I wasn't going further. And then my mentor, Savannah Slope, who was a brilliant mentor, she said, you've got enough poems. Why didn't you think about a book? So I've always not pushed myself enough. And then for Ellie then to accept the book and to say, come on tour with me, let's go read here. I know these people, let's go there. And I just loved that, that generosity, to include me on your journey and support me too, along the way. I feel very thankful and grateful for that. I'm not trying to make up.
My heart is like just pouring out of my chest with joy and love and like appreciation of the sweetness. I mean, I could have done this tour alone, but this started because I wanted to make a launch party for you when your book came out. And then it was like, well, wait a minute. Let's just, I could go to do my tour myself, but what fun would that be? And as we've gotten closer and closer, it seemed so obvious we go take the UK together. So
yeah.
Be super.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's like coming right up too.
That's right.
Right
Yes,
around
it
the
is.
corner.
Yes, indeed. So now we're back around again to Elisabeth. Tell us, what are you currently working on?
Well, I actually just finished a book called Apple, and I wrote it with Vanessa Mackey, who's also an author at my press. She did the book The Chosen One recently. We launched that last month, and she's also a visual artist. And she came to me with this project. She said, we tried one time before to write together, for me to write about her visual art, and it didn't quite work. And she was totally honest, and she said, Ellie, I'm not feeling this. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't offended. I was like, absolutely. And this is like 6 months later. She said, I have this idea. I really love Fiona Apple, and I want to paint pictures about her songs. And I want you to write poems about my paintings and the song. And she's like, do you like Fiona Apple? And I was like, I think so. Like, somehow Fiona Apple and I like missed each other. I don't know why, but I don't know why. That it's very embarrassing to admit because she's quite genius. And she's a total poet in her own right.
Yep.
So Vanessa started sending me pieces of art, and I would put on the song that it came from and stare at Vanessa's painting, which they're very abstract. They're very chaotic, abstract, colorful. And something would just come out. So Vanessa and I, it was amazing. I mean, again, like a collaborative experience that was out of this world, massive trust. And it's been picked up. It's coming out in a year. So I can't say with who. It's going to be announced Monday. But so I've just finished that. So I'm breathing and launching Betty. So yeah.
Well,
congratulations
on Apple.
Book accepted, because I kept thinking I've lost my nerve, I've lost my voice, I've lost this and that, and then I was like, no, you haven't. You're okay.
That's right.
You could still write a poem, girl. Just chill out.
Just gonna say, hey, whenever you have that self-doubt, just take a look at your massive archive and just say, yeah, you still got it.
I think as writers, it does get scary if we write something really that gets nicely accepted, and then we go, I don't know if I can replicate that. And I struggle with confidence. Mm-hmm.
No, it goes for it goes for almost any type of artist. You create something that's so monumental, or sometimes you just create the next project, and surprisingly, it becomes monumental, and then you think to yourself, well, if this was so positively received, can I really top that?
Can I top that? I mean, David, I hope we'll just keep moving and send me his next best thing. But like after a book like Spectrum of Flight, which is so profound and so good for a debut, and I'm not trying to make you feel like, oh shit, what am I going to do next? I just mean, sorry about that pressure. I just mean it is so good, and that's those moments when you're like, okay, now I have to write something else that's as good as that. And that can be, I've been there. That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes we can be intimidated by our own work, actually, isn't
Yeah.
it? It can kind of go in two ways. You can think, wow, I've made this incredible thing. I can make incredible things, and I'm sure I'll make more. Or
Right.
you can think, I've made this incredible thing. God, I'm not going to be able to top that.
God, I
You know,
can't do that again. Yes,
yeah,
I don't have that in
and
me again.
we get those
Absolutely.
anxieties, isn't it? And I think
Mhm.
you know, confidence in your work does fluctuate,
It
but
does
you have to
very
kind
much.
of look into it and sometimes just let it be, isn't it? It's kind of the same.
Yeah,
I see it the same
you do.
as you know, when you have a period where you're writing a lot and you know feel really on and you're writing a lot and suddenly nothing, you know, you
Oh
just
yes.
won't be writing anything and you start to think, oh no, am I a writer anymore? It's like, yeah, I'm
Or
still a writer. I'm
like
just not writing anything at the moment.
so the last year when I was working as a secretary in the hospital, everything I wrote sounded so dumb. And I was like, nope, not submitting that. No. And I couldn't find my voice. And it really was a long time until Apple, So thank God for Vanessa approaching me. I needed someone to kick my ass and be like, and put that pressure on me to dig super deep. And
But that project, Ellie, I love Fiona Apple, so
I know
Same.
I can give you a sneak peek, darling. It's going to be hard to wait a whole year for that one. But what can you do?
she'll probably be coming back about then anyway. I think she's working on a new album, so maybe it will coincide with your release.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
Oh
And
man,
I have this
Yeah.
fantasy
she
that
saw
will
that.
sorry, go ahead, Zach.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just that I have this secret fantasy I told Vanessa that somehow will get Fiona's attention and be like, "We made this for you." Like,
Hey,
and she's
with
like,
the power of Twitter and many other platforms, you never know.
"No, you don't." And if we
This
tag her enough times, she
this
might be like, "All right, who are these girls and what are they doing?" And like, right? I think she'd
I
be
think she'd
totally
be
into it.
flattered.
I think she would be too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, with gaining attention, you never know. There's this innovative YouTube animator I know, and his name is Nathaniel Barlam, and he goes under the name Musical Comics. And what he's done is
Mm.
he's recreated. Well, I mean, not. I mean, he's added. I suppose you could. I mean, just literally just comic strip panels on YouTube, just these animations to accompany classic rock songs, and he's done one for Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and when he started tackling Genesis, the Peter Gabriel era, I should say, he actually, I mean, somehow got wind of his work. It was just something else. So I'm just saying, you never know. I mean,
No, you don't. Right.
you never know.
I'm so glad you guys both like her too. That's cool. Like,
Definitely,
that would be
definitely.
awesome. Yeah.
Did you ever hear her cover of Across the Universe?
No, not yet.
I'm very picky with Beatles covers, I admit, but
If you
wow,
want to send it to me, I'd love to see
most
it.
definitely.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you too, David, if you wish.
I know it. It's brilliant, and I think is the video in black and white.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. I love it. It's great. Yeah.
Oh
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yay. So I think this book will be really well received because there are a lot of poets and musicians who like Fiona. Like, she seems to touch
So creative.
people pretty deeply.
Yeah, she has that
Yeah.
universal touch for sure.
Brilliant.
So this next question is for David. So I'm curious, when did you find your confessional voice, your confessional style, and who are some of your poetic influences in that way?
I think what happened is, you know, I started writing after coming out of my depression, and I was just writing about the experience. And I didn't really know much about poetry. And I didn't know if it was going to become poetry yet. And I started going to some open mic nights, but I was actually writing some comedic stuff as well. So I was actually reading that first, but I was also writing very personal, raw stuff. And I came across a poet called Christina Thatcher, who is an American poet, who she's released a book called More Than You Were, which is about her father's addiction and his death through addiction. Very raw, very painful. And I saw her read, and it was just one of those moments where it was like, wow, this is somebody, you know, writing about these raw, painful things that we don't talk about. And that's what I'm doing. And I approached her, and she became my mentor. And I think then, you know, just that moment, just seeing her read, it gave me that confidence. You know, when you see someone else doing it, you think, wow, you know, you can actually write about this stuff. And I think, as scary as it is, and I feel very vulnerable, you know, similar to Ellie, I have those really, you know, scared days where I don't want anyone to read it.
Yeah.
But then you, at the same time, you do. And what pushes me is that, you know, all the things that we talk about are things that people don't talk about. And I feel like literally all the things that we don't talk about as humans are the things that we actually need to be talking about, you know? They're the things that damage our mental health by being silent about them.
Yeah.
And I think you really realize that when you go through that experience. And I think writing about it afterwards and sharing that, it is finding your voice, and it's, you know, it's telling people that they can find their voice too, and that you don't want them to go through that silence that you went through.
Yeah.
You know, and reading Ellie's book, you know, is so confessional and it's so brave, and you know, I completely understand the fear, but I just think it's incredible. I think because, you know, the stigma and the shame around issues more than half the problem sometimes. And if only we could just eradicate that, because, you know, it's ridiculous. It stops people from reaching out for help. It stops people from giving help to those people. And, you know, it's such an awful thing. You know, we're only human, you know, we are only human. So just wish people were a bit more understanding and, you know, not so judgmental.
Oh my gosh. Well, I no, on some level, I can definitely relate, especially to what you were speaking of before, David. As far as bullying is concerned, that can really, I can do one monstrous number in your cranium. It's no matter what the cause. It's yeah. So I'm just that's why part of the reason why your book attracted me so much, and I'm definitely looking forward to the overall reception of it upon its launch, of course. So
Thank you.
Definitely.
And I think, you know, still that fear of, you know, judgment, of being judged. I still have that, and I think once you've been, I think that kind of stays with you. But, you know, that's what pushes me as well, because the whole book is about tackling that. So even me fearing that in the reception, I'm still pushing myself, because I'm like, this is exactly the problem. You know?
Yeah. No, of course. Well, upon the book's launch, may we all take flight.
I hope we do. I hope we all do.
And like David's poems with the bullying, like he comes at it in such a unique way, the way you talk about it. I mean, it's so, you know, talking about like the birds and the lions and the, you know, just everything about it. I mean, if you've ever felt like unaccepted in any way, those poems just go right to your stomach, you know? And just, you know, you managed to write about something so ugly and painful with these beautiful words. I mean, I think that's like maybe like what I'm always trying to say about your book, is that your language is so beautiful, talking about these things that were just horrific. That's incredible. That's incredible skill, you know?
Agreed.
I think that's what I've always been like searching for, that quote to describe your writing, and I think I finally found it. So
now it's been immortalized.
that's right.
It's a better sell now. not just oh, it's painful, it's horrible. It's
You
more
bring
than that.
it is. It's not that simple.
Constructing beauty from pain is a true skill. Yeah,
There you go.
definitely when reading through Spectrum of Flight, I definitely caught that. That was
Right, Zach? Yeah.
yeah.
His
Thank
way of stringing together language is like nothing I've ever seen. So
Mm. Agreed.
Mhm. Very
So
unique.
so this long-awaited question is for both of you, and long-awaited in the sense that I think we're all anxious to hear about this. Tell us as many details as you can muster about the tour.
the tour. David, you go first, love. You go first.
So the tour begins in Birmingham, yes, at Cherry Reds, and we will be reading with Matt Duggan.
Yep.
In Birmingham, who's a great poet from Bristol.
Great.
And that will be the launch.
The 27th. Feb
27th February, yeah. And then we will go to Nottingham.
Yep. Nottingham.
Nottingham.
I love the way we say those cities so completely differently. It's hilarious. Like Nottingham, American. Yeah.
And it's not Nottingham. I feel like I'm an even different voice.
Yeah. We're gonna have to practice each other's accents. So
Okay.
That's hilarious. And in that city, we get to meet the one and only Miggy Angel, right? For Do or Die Poets, and that's going to be something else. And that's actually held at a club that is substance free. That is a safe recovery space.
Wow.
And so that night, and I'm the featured poet that night. So like that's going to be something else. Reading these poems about my addiction to a completely sober crowd, many of whom were addicts. So that night to me feels particularly special, and I'm so glad that you're coming to that one, David. And I've seen videos of that reading night, and there's a ton of people, and it's wild. They're all like cheering and clapping and standing. It's like massive energy that I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, yes.
I feel excited and sick.
Excited and sick to my stomach.
We've got all the contradictions, like pain and beauty.
Yeah.
Excited and feeling sick.
We do.
If you want to add one more contradiction, if you really want to throw off one of the audiences, you should just one night when you're performing, just switch accents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we're reading each other's poets to know the accents as well.
Perfect.
Oh my God. On the train we'll practice each other's. I can be from Bristol, and you can
We're going to take further with each other.
Oh, we're so cute.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So after Nottingham, I zip up to Manchester to do a workshop with Isabel Kenyon with Fly on the Wall about writing ekphrastic poetry with my Frida book. And people are like paying to come do that. And it's people I know on Twitter are going to come be there, and that's going to be excellent. And then that same day, I'm going to meet David in Southport near Liverpool. We're having a Broken Spine Arts Party launch in Liverpool that night. And then, David, can you tell the rest from there, darling?
So I can. And then we go to Bristol, my city, where I live. And we will read with Anna Saunders and David Hunter, I think.
David Hunter. Yeah.
Hunter. And that's going to be a great night. That's at the Square, Clifton Square, which is a beautiful venue.
Beautiful.
So it's really exciting as well. I'm really glad that Ellie's getting to come to Bristol and see the city. And that was kind of, that was the last night that we sort of arranged, wasn't it? I kind of just messaged you saying, have you got time? Like, we should definitely do a as I said, I'm not one of those people who, is like, oh, I've got an idea, let's go for it. I'm kind of more reserved.
Yeah.
But
No,
I
and
just thought, what?
you were kind of like looking at bookstores and whatnot, and then it just happened. I don't know how it happened with Anna. Once we got Anna on board. Yeah.
I just thought, shame if we didn't do a reading here, you know, when Bristol is such an artistic city. And Anna's
I
been so
always wanted a launch for you. I mean, I had promised you that as your editor, and I was like, you will have a launch for this book. And that night I consider to be very much your launch, your night. I'll be tagging along that night.
You will. Yeah. With each other, stuck to the hip.
That's right. But at that point, we are going to be one and the same. We're going to be so tired.
Yeah.
Introducing the first pair of Siamese poets.
That's right. No, sweet
Love
David.
It.
We've got all our train tickets booked. David did all our train tickets, and I did all our travel lodges. And we
with a couple of mishaps, but
we managed to get it. It's like all there. It's all which is waiting for us at this point. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So now we just have to go do it.
That's right. That's right. That's awaiting your arrival. So, speaking of sharing pieces, so this is the section of the interview. Before I close this out, I would love for you to read some of each other's pieces. And I should tell the audience, in case you haven't figured it out already, these two lovely people have volunteered to read each other's pieces to sort of give the audience a different perspective altogether. So I will let you two have at it.
Okay, David, what do you think? Do you want to go first?
Okay, yeah, I'll go first.
Put me on the spot.
Okay.
I'm going to take some deep breaths for this one, and
Okay. This poem is called "Why I Love Owls" by Elisabeth Horan. Do you know what it's like to be fat? Fat is like being thrown out of a car door, knowing how to suck cock. Do you know what it's like to hate yourself to the core for being thrown out of a car door, for not knowing how to suck cock, for being fat? Do you know what it's like to try to die from the act or non-act of eating? It's like being called fat over and over again, and then being thrown out a car door for not knowing how to suck cock, for being fat. Do you know what it's like to fail to die, from the pathetic fail of trying to die, from the selfish act of eating, and or the selfish act of non-eating, or the act of throwing up one's insides, like a selfish little bitch who is a whiny piece of shit about her stupid, wasted life. It's like being fat. It's like being called a fat les, like wishing I was a fat les instead, like failing at gagging oneself, like failing at gagging oneself with a disgusting cock, in the hopes of some kind of acceptance by an asshole wannabe logger named Levi, who hath monikered you fat troll, who tells you to suck his disgusting dick in a Chevy S10 with not enough buds to ever make it doable, tolerable. And he takes your last smoke, the one you would later need to nurse the choke. And he pushes you, you, a drunk and gibbering, fat troll monikered, misused, mistaken, missing teen, out of a gaping door. Thanks for nothing but a fucking shitty blowjob. Then he drives off, just like that. And then, suddenly, you are not fat. Neither are you cum-stained. And you think, is that not an owl? Owls don't hate fat girls. Neither would an owl make you give them a blowjob. Owls simply don't behave like that.
I'm gonna need a decade to breathe.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Thank you, sweetheart.
So,
Awful.
thank you for reading that, sweetheart.
Thank
Maybe
you.
when
It
we're
was
on
my-
tour, that's the one you read of mine, and this is the one I read of yours. Because that one I don't think I can read that one again out loud, you know?
I'm very happy to do that one for you.
I'm going to start reading yours before I cry, okay?
Okay.
I'm just going to go right into it. So you'll see how David and I connect so deeply with animals and pain as I read this one for him. Put the phone in his hand. Okay. This is called I'll Never Forget the Dead Fox on the Side of the Road with Its Guts Hanging Out. Because I'd never seen a fox on my council estate before. Because I was 7 or 8 years old at the time. Because the first time I did it was daylight and it was dead. Because I, too, only came out in the dark. Because its body was slack as a half-tide, overflowing bin bag dumped on a curbside. Its fur bloodied, matted with small bits of rubber and gravel. Sorry, I'm trying to compose myself and read. I can do this.
Take your time.
Because days later, it was swarming with flies, and, if you got close enough, the smell of rotting flesh, sharp and fetid, coated itself thick as plasterboard on your nostril walls. Because I imagined unrelenting screeches, machine versus feral, how someone had torn tire through muscle, easy as unzipping a tent, untangled its mass from their bumper, then carried it and discarded it on the roadside. How grueling that must have been, yet how tossed like a pancake the creature looked. Because it was the embodiment of abandon. Because it was disemboweled, bruised purple, swollen spaghetti marinated in roadkill crimson. Because I, too, had been gutted by a district called home. Because one time a bully from entrance to exit held a penknife against my gut as I panic walked through the local shopping center. School shoes scuffing and screeching against the bubble-patterned rubber flooring, each bubble rising into a gravestone because it was stillness after chaos. Because we walked past it every day on our way to school, hands, blinds, tremble covering our eyes as we peeked through open slat fingers. Because it was facing away from us, and I never saw its face, just its triangle ears that looked pricked. Because against all reason, this still gave me some droplet of hope. Because that was how I learned to endure. Because it was pet smooth, coat, fire alive, because it was a festering knot of blood-soaked snakes. Because it was more outside of itself than in. Because it was honest. Because when it was finally gone, our neighborhood, a body it was surgically removed from, with not a trace of flesh or entrails left, not a speck of blood. It was as if nothing had ever happened. Because it was always like this.
Wow.
Thank you, Ellie.
Wow.
Of course.
Thank you very, very much for that.
My honor.
My honor to read yours too.
It's an honor. I mean, I think those two really show how you and I unite
Mm.
on such deep levels. Like, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to.
I know. My heart, my sweetheart.
Yeah, seriously. Well, well, first of all, again, I just wanted to say thank you both for being here, for taking the time to not only grant us, or I should say, bequeath unto us fragments of your soul today, but also just letting us know about the upcoming tour and just giving us some deeper insight to your work than we are already granted. And do you both have any final words?
Do you want to go first, David?
I'm just very grateful for this interview, and it's been a really special experience. I think we, you know, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I think I'm a bit stumped for words because I'm feeling quite emotional, I think.
Me too. Okay. I think we share a really magical thing, and I've been kind of waiting to show the world this magic, David, that you and I hold in our hearts for each other and for each other's poetry. And what a beautiful chance to get to show that. Like, thank you, Zach. And I, like, going into this interview, I kept telling David, like, Zach's so chill, it's so fun, like, you know, I trust you so deeply, Zach. I mean, obviously I trust David with my heart, but like, being here with you just feels really special on this day. So thank you for that gift, my love.
Well, thank
So
you.
nice.
Thank you so much, my dear. It's the feeling is most definitely mutual. Definitely,
Yeah.
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 And
Thank you, Zach.
Oh, of course, David. And David, while I barely know you, I already feel like I can be myself around you.
I feel the same. I feel, you've been
Yeah.
a great interviewer. You've made us both
Isn't
feel
he?
so relaxed and comfortable, and yeah, it just feels like such a safe space,
It does.
And I think, I feel like we've really talked about the things we really wanted to talk about, when we pushed ourselves to be vulnerable, and you've been completely supportive, and yeah, and I've enjoyed it as well, as much as it, this stuff is painful. I think this is exciting, and this is a brilliant thing that we're doing, and I'm just so thankful for you giving us the time to talk about our
too.
book, and both
I
our
wanna-
books.
Something else too, about like doing this with you, David, is that, I might be like sobbing now if I had been alone in this interview. I might be like unable to recover, and I look out at you across the video and I see you smiling, and it's like, well, I can't do that. That would ruin it for David. So being near you helps me hold my shit together, and that's so great.
We're
Yeah.
both being very exposing, and putting ourselves out there, and it's brave. It's brave of us.
It is.
And anyone who judges it, really, well,
they're lost.
But but it is kind of like that, really, isn't it? Because if people don't see the importance of why we talk about these things, then I don't know. I just find that sad, really. I think.
Oh, of course. No, of course. It's as
I don't want to take back my story now, but it's already happened.
Well, hey, as a great musical prophet once said, living life is easy with eyes closed. Or living is easy with eyes closed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound stupid and say who said that.
Oh no, it's okay. John Lennon.
Yeah. Oh, bless him.
Yeah. Hey, and you're going to Liverpool, so.
We are, and you know what, Zach? We would like to just put you right in the suitcase and take you with us, and
That'd
you could
be
be
so
like
amazing.
you could be like our tour. Make like a documentary of us. Right?
I'd love it.
That'd be something.
Yeah.
Bring Zach along. Damn it.
Boy. That'd be something. I would. Oh man, if I got a chance to perform for the UK audience, that'd be a dream come true.
Right? It is a dream come true. I mean, for me, this is all like I pinch myself often.
I'm sure.
Thank God damn, how'd I pull that off? And not because of my ego, just because it's like, really, how did I do that? I don't know.
Do we have time to read any more like one more poem each, or do we not have time? If not, that's
what?
fine.
Sure. Why not? Let's do it.
I mean, we've already gone over like what. We've already lost the viewers who are bored at this point. So.
Just thought it'd be quite nice because in the last radio interview we read well, I know I'd read that poem. Ellie had read that poem for me, so it might be nice to have one different one.
Okay.
know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes,
If
Let's
do.
that's cool.
do it.
Go ahead.
Should we do one each?
Yeah.
If that's okay.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. You go first, David, darling.
Okay, brilliant. It's just a short poem. This is called Phoenix. Eventually, I capture the light of recovery in my hands and, tightly cupped, transport it to him.
Thank you so much.
Feel its shine down his throat. I wanted to do the same for him as it has done for me. But when I arrive, he is lip-stitched, and I realize I can't force him to open his mouth and let us in. I look down at my hands, feel ashes fall through my fingers, from which, one day, he will rise.
Ooh.
Snapping. He's snapping. Love it.
Are you snapping?
Yeah.
That was snapping. I heard him. It's beautiful.
Love it, David.
Oh, there's so many good poems in that collection. It's like hard to choose. Yeah.
And
All
that
right.
poem about me kind of coming out of my depression, and a very close loved one went into their depression, and it's about me trying to help them, but unfortunately at the time it wasn't enough. But later on, that person said that all the stuff that I'd done did help them, but it just took time, you know. So it's kind of about them being, you know, I tried to give them the light, but they're not able to take it at that time. But even though it burns into ashes, they will rise from it, you know.
Of course. I was just going to mention an emotional phoenix.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Thank you for
Alright.
allowing us to meet.
Oh, of course. All right, Dizzy Miss Lizzie, your turn.
Okay. Do this. If my phone dies, I truly apologize. My technological issues just continue constantly. I'm going to read a short one in case it does die.
Okay.
This is called Impatient. I think my room was number 14. One time my pastor came, I think his name was Mark. Came to visit, I suppose, to bless me, and the nurses, they asked me, may he come in? And I didn't know what to do, so I said, no, he cannot. But I have wondered all these 24 years since, might I have succumbed to Jesus? Might I have been reborn, maybe even saved on the life raft that religion has the propensity to relay? I would have saved all that disgusting food, all the hangovers, all that wasted energy from trying to kill myself so stupidly, so slowly. Mark, the pastor, came to visit, and in fear of man, God's eye on my body, on my skin, I never opened the door to let him in. Snap it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very, very much for that one.
Absolutely.
Thank you both very much for being here today. Again, just entirely grateful for both your presence. A major mazel tov on both of your book releases, and may they see nothing but success. May they inspire a great many readers. I definitely have complete and total faith in both of you. I think it's and plus it may sound kind of biased coming from me because I've always had a thing for confessional poetry, and I delve into that myself as well. But I think these two pieces will definitely touch many hearts. You'll see.
Zach, that's beautiful.
Means a lot.
Thank you.
Oh,
What
thank
a
you.
pleasure. David, thank you.
Call me a literary Nostradamus, but in this case, I'm right.
You, damn it, he's so right. You've never been wrong before, so why would you be on the Thank you for everything, and thank you, David, for doing this with me. So fun. So special. Love you
Yeah,
both.
it's been
Mwah. Love you both.
Mwah.